Welcome to the show. You are one-on-one with Wesley Sports Guy here on YouTube and online all the time at wesleysportsguy.com. Welcome back. It is another great week in the world of sports. Going to jump right into it with the MLB All-Star teams being announced this week. The American League and the National League going to be playing this upcoming Tuesday at Nationals Park in Washington, D.C. And as is with the rosters every single year, there's a lot of snubs, and I'm not going to go through the entire list of snubs, but if you want to check out my version of the Major League All-Star teams for the American and National League, you can go to wesleysportsguy.com and check that out. It has been posted, and you can debate it, yell at me, say who I forgot, but I did mention quite a bit of notable omissions that I could not put on the rosters because I'm following the exact rules that Major League Baseball institutes for each league, and also makes it a little more difficult this year with the fact that they reduced the roster size from 34 down to 32, and you have to have at least 13 pitchers, it seems like, in every league, and that kind of sets the bar very, very tightly to get as many good hitters as you can for each league, and which ones are deserving, which ones are not. I know I've only included one first baseman, you could say, in the American League, but I do have a utility infielder from the Toronto Blue Jays in Yangervis Solarte, who is the best Blue Jay that they've got this year. I can't find anybody else more deserving than he. You could say Justin Smoke was more deserving than he was as well, but I went in a different direction. I went with more utility than just strictly with one specific position for that team to represent in the All-Star game. But that's just one example. And then you look at the Washington Nationals, you could say that Bryce Harper really doesn't deserve to be an All-Star with his batting average being below 220, but it is the home park of the Washington Nationals. It's kind of hard not to say that Bryce Harper deserves to be there. And looking at that situation, it would be kind of bad for baseball if their namesake for that team that's hosting the All-Star game is not playing in that game, let alone starting it. That would be kind of a bummer and a bit of a downer if you're a Nationals fan, which it's kind of a down season for them with them playing behind the Atlanta Braves and Philadelphia Phillies for most of this season. And it's kind of been disappointing, but they're still not out of it yet. They can get one of those wild card spots, or they could get hot and catch up to the team in the NL East, to Atlanta or Philadelphia, whoever's going to be on top at that time, which as of right now, Atlanta is on top in that division. But again, if you have any problems with my selections, go to wesleysportsguy.com, leave a comment below. Make sure you subscribe and hit that Liberty Bell button as well at youtube.com for One-on-One with Wesley Sports Guy. Time for the segment that has a different ring to it in a rapid-fire sort of way. For the Ring of Fire segment, a couple quick topics to get to. The World Cup final is finally set. It's going to be between France and Croatia. France is going to be the heavy favorites going into this tournament, and they are the favorites to win it, going against Croatia, who is probably one of the bigger underdogs, you could say, in the World Cup in recent history. But aside from my not deep-seated hatred of soccer, but I just don't like soccer to begin with, but I'm talking to you today because this is the World Cup final, and it's going to happen this weekend, France and Croatia. Please do not go to penalty kicks. Please just end it in the way it should be ended while playing the game. Do not go to penalty kicks to decide this. I hate it when that happens in soccer. No matter the level, it happens all the time. It's like if there was a shootout for the Stanley Cup final in hockey, it would suck. I don't like that. Please don't let it get to penalty kicks. Just end it in good old glorious soccer fashion, if you want to call it that. Next topic, the National Football Players Association has decided to file a grievance over the anthem policy instituted by the NFL just a little over a month or two ago. Coming into this season, the NFL is requiring all players that are on the field during the national anthem they are required to stand. If they do not want to stand during the national anthem, they can be in the locker room at that time, and basically, that is a requirement of the NFL players that if you're on the field, you have to stand. If you're not on the field, you don't have to come out and stand for the national anthem. You can still be in the locker room if you choose to protest, whatever the case may be. So the Players Association decides to file a grievance basically for the fact that they weren't consulted on the policy, and they just want to bring the NFL to the table and discuss this a little bit further, which the NFL should have just nipped this in the bud a lot sooner when this started and got the policy instituted and be done with it. Now, the NFL does not have to be held to the same standards that the federal government could be when it comes to freedom of speech. This is a private organization. They can institute whatever rules they see fit. And if you don't like it, you do not have to watch the NFL, obviously. You do not have to root for those players. You do not have to buy a ticket. You do not have to do anything that gives them money. That is your right to do that. And with the NFL Players Association, it is their right to defend their players when it comes to this policy. So it's just a publicity ploy, you could say. The NFLPA files the grievance. They just want to talk. And whether or not talking gets them anywhere is up for debate. But again, the NFL doesn't have to talk to the Players Association when it comes to this kind of a policy. They are instituting a rule. It's a brand new rule. They don't have to renege on it. And if you say otherwise, you're just fooling yourself, because the NFL is a private business. They do not have the same standards that the federal government, again, has when it comes to freedom of speech. You cannot infringe upon that, but if you're a private business, you have a little bit of leeway there because you're in the business of making money. And if business is hurting because of a certain action that's happening on the field or before a game, you're going to take action to stop it or basically frown upon it. And that's what they did. In other news, in the NFL, the Hall of Fame has decided that they are not going to honor Terrell Owens when the ceremony gets going just before the first preseason game in early August, when they are announcing and introducing the newest members of the Hall of Fame. They have a big shindig on the NFL Network, and then, of course, this broadcast with the Hall of Fame inductees getting introduced and being put into the Hall of Fame with their induction speeches and so forth. Terrell Owens has already announced he's not going to be there to give his speech. He's going to go to his alma mater at Tennessee Chattanooga and do his speech there. So the Hall of Fame in turn has said that they only are going to honor those that are currently present when they are giving Hall of Fame speeches. So it was kind of an interesting quote that they gave, and my quick 2 cents on it is that what about players that were recently deceased and they were inducted into the Hall of Fame? You don't let family members give speeches during the Hall of Fame speech, and then you're just going to give that kind of blunt attitude towards Terrell Owens because it's his right to not be there. He doesn't have to be there if he doesn't want to, but you're going to give that same attitude to him you shouldn't do to members of the Hall of Fame that were recently deceased, and you can't let anybody give a speech about them whatsoever. I think the Hall of Fame, if you want to take that attitude with Terrell Owens, that's your right to do that. That's fine. When it comes to deceased players, though, they should reverse that and let somebody speak on their behalf for somebody that's been recently deceased that got inducted in the Hall of Fame is no longer there. They should change that policy around quickly. Time for the segment that would rather spend money on Domino's Pizza than Papa John's simply because it's cheaper. Do you remember?
You remember?
Do you remember when the Major League Baseball Home Run Derby was actually good? No, it's a serious question because I don't remember. I don't remember when it was good because the last couple of years have been a little bit better. It hasn't been so painstakingly long. It hasn't been drawn out. It's actually on a time limit. Players get extra time based off of the distance of their home runs. All the different stuff that they're trying to do to spice it up. And also they've introduced a bracket which makes it seem a little more appealing, but it doesn't really matter because it's still the home run derby. It's not as appealing as it used to be when you had the greatest stars in the world crushing it just on a exhibition type of stage, but it was well worth the entertainment value and the time that you spent watching it. The last one that I remember that I actually really got behind was when my favorite player at the time, and really one of the favorite players of all time, Vladimir Guerrero, when he won the home run derby back in San Francisco at eighteenth Park during that All-Star game, and that All-Star week, you should say. But again, the home run derby really hasn't had a lot of entertainment value. Josh Hamilton, everybody wants to say, was the greatest performance they've ever seen in a home run derby at Old Yankee Stadium when he just was crushing the ball left and right. He didn't actually win the home run derby that year, but it was entertaining nonetheless. But again, I'll watch just because I'm a baseball fan, but the derby itself is just not there. It's like the slam dunk contest in the NBA. It's going to always be there because that is their namesake when it comes to their exhibition week, their All-Star week. It's something they have to show. Baseball has to show it too with the home run derby, and it's always going to be around, but I'm kind of wondering, when's it finally going to stop? I don't see how you can improve on it more than just a bracket. It's got to get better, but I'm out of ideas. I don't know what else you can do. It's kind of stale in my taste, and I don't like saying that. I love baseball, but it's a little stale for me. Time for the feel-good story of the week, and I go to Thailand. As everybody probably knows by now, the soccer team full of 11, 12, 13-year-old boys and their coach have all made it out of that just horrible situation where they were stuck in a cave for 10 days, mind you, 10 days before they were found, stuck in a cave, flooded out. They were exploring it after a soccer game, and they went missing, obviously, because they never got out of the cave. They got lost, but they were stuck without anybody knowing where they were for 10 days. If you can imagine going through that, it's just heart-wrenching, scary, frightening, all the adjectives you want to describe that situation. And then in the process of figuring out how to get them out with the flooding and monsoon season coming in Thailand, the situation just was very dire, and of course most of them couldn't swim, and the way you get out of those caves is very tight, narrow passages, and the water's not clear, mind you. The water is very murky and muddy. You can't see anything. It's not the best situation in the world, but thankfully all the prayers, all the thoughts, the heroes that are those divers. Unfortunately, one did lose his life in the process before the rescue got underway. So our hearts and prayers are out to that person and his family in Thailand for going through that sad situation all the way around. But good story in the end. All of them are alive and well. They got out of there safe and sound. They've also had a bunch of outpour of love and faith coming to them from professional soccer teams all over the world. So they've been invited to a Premier League match in England by a team there. I can't remember the name off the top of my head right now, but it's just a great story all the way around. So the Thailand soccer team has been saved, including the coach. They are all alive and well, thankfully, and that's something that you can be happy about going into your weekend. Thank you for tuning in, as always, here on One-on-One with Wes the Sports Guy on YouTube and online all the time at westhesportsguy.com. Again, subscribe, hit that Liberty Bell to get the notifications when the videos are up and running. I got a big announcement coming up. I'm probably going to do it either on Instagram or Facebook Live. I'm going to be going somewhere very special later on this month. I'm not going to give it away just yet. You'll have to tune in. And I will see you next week, as always, here on YouTube for One-on-One. I'll see you next time.